Hughes get joined in?
He's unable to share his camera, but his microphone should be
Okay,
on.
Mr. Hughes?
Hello.
Okay, you are present virtually. Thank you. Commissioner Johnson? Here. Mr. Stith is absent today. Treasurer Briner?
Here.
And Mr. Brown, can we try Mike one more time?
Present.
Oh, there we go. Thank you. Okay. For staff in attendance today, Kendra Boyle, Director of Fiscal Management, Stephanie Bassig, Assistant Director of Debt Management, and on virtual is our Jennifer Wimmer, Debt Director, and Laura Rowe, Policy and Compliance Director. Let's see, MJ and Lindy are back behind me doing our AV. For those of you who are joining us virtually, no, why did I say that? That's later. These meeting proceedings are being recorded and will be made available to the public pursuant to our department's recording of public meetings policy. We would ask that everyone that speaks today in the meeting, would you please identify yourself? If you are participating virtually, please mute yourself when you're not speaking. Our meeting will continue through any AV or power issues. The recording usually continues and we usually pause to make sure everything gets back on track. The agenda is posted on our website, www.nctreasurer.gov at the LGC page. If we have changes to the agenda, it will be announced during the course of the meeting. We will take votes by roll call, and if the members have no objection, your motions and seconds will be considered as a yes vote unless you want to indicate otherwise during the vote. For those of you in the room, the microphones in the ceiling are very sensitive, so you may, if you have a private conversation you need to have, please feel free to quietly go to the lobby, and that'll do it. Thank you.
All right, thanks so much, Cindy. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of North Carolina and pledge to the United States love, loyalty, and faith. Members, I'll review with you the conflict of interest statement. Please take a moment to review the agenda. Commission members are reminded of your duty to avoid conflicts of interest. Does any member have an actual or potential conflict of interest with respect to any matter on the agenda? All right, hearing none. Let's move on to the approval of minutes from the October 7, 2025 meeting. These were included in your packet, I believe. Any questions about the minutes? And if not, any motion for approval?
Marshall, move approval.
Marshall?
Second.
Second, Briner. Cindy, would you call the roll?
Thank you. The minutes for October 7th, Marshall Briner. Auditor Boliek.
Aye.
Thank you. Secretary Wooten.
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Brown.
Aye.
Thank you. Councilman Hoffmann.
Aye.
Mr. Hughes.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Johnson. Aye. And that'll do it. That motion carries.
All right, thank you, Cindy. Moving on to the consent agenda. Members, there are a few changes to the consent agenda. First, I'll tell you that there are 2 units on the consent agenda that you received in the mail that have chosen to withdraw themselves from the agenda. One is the Dare County item, and one is the United Health Centers item. MJF, if you are able to unmute Jennifer Wimmer, I think she's going to briefly say why these units have pulled themselves.
Good afternoon, commission members. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. The United Healthcare or United Health Centers is coming, but not on the November agenda for building acquisition and renovation. They have some internal deadlines and legal documents that are still in process, and therefore they have a a closing date in December. So they are requesting to move to the December agenda for their own legal documents to be taken care of. The second item is the Dare County Public Works Facility. Normally, when the item comes to us to be placed on the agenda, we have requested all permits and information that would be necessary for the project to move forward to be accompanying to the application process. All the local permits were approved. And so therefore we had said that this was ready to go. However, the county and their financial advisors were expecting another permit that we were not aware of at the time. Because this piece of property that is owned by the county already is adjacent to the airport, there is a necessary FAA permit and approval that needs to happen before any renovations or any improvements to the property take effect. With the current federal government shutdown, this has delayed the FAA approval. So they have asked, and by necessity, because they do not have the necessary permits to move forward on this project at this time, we will make sure at the time that they do come to the agenda again, that FAA permit has been secured.
All right, thank you so much, Jennifer. And just a reminder to any units that are coming forward that in the future, that as Jennifer said, units should have the permits in hand and should disclose to staff any permits that you're waiting on, so we don't end up in this situation. But for members, we hope to bring that item to you next month. Moving on with the consent agenda, there are two items that will be pulled for separate vote. One is the Raleigh Moore Square item, and one is the Enlivian housing redefined item. Any other items that members wish to pull from the consent agenda for separate vote? All right, I think I'll turn it over to Stephanie to go through the items on the consent agenda briefly and talk about if there's anything you would like to point out to the members before we hear questions.
We're going to start with the Cape Fear Public Utility Authority, and it goes through King, so Southern Pines, and most everything that is on there is pretty self-explanatory. So if anybody has any questions, let me know. And the Southern Pines is a property purchase, and what was unfortunate with that, we just got the wrong bank name. So really the only thing you're approving on that is the bank name. Okay?
That's why that one has a $0. It's
Yes,
a correction to the bank name of a prior item. Thank you. Any questions from anyone? Cindy?
Did you say the Raleigh Moore Square?
Mm-hmm.
Is that the one that's?
Yes,
Okay,
the Raleigh Moore Square.
Thank you.
Yep. No questions. Looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda with those 4 items removed.
Second.
Secretary Wooten, second from Treasurer Briner. Cindy, would you call the roll?
Yes. And just one more time so everyone's clear, consent agenda is Cape Fear through the Southern Pines miscellaneous, but omitting Medcare United Health matter, the Dare County matter, Raleigh Housing Moore Square, and the Enlivian. Okay, Wooten Briner, Secretary Marshall.
Aye.
Auditor Boliek.
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Brown.
Aye.
Thank you. Councilwoman Hoffmann.
Aye.
Mr. Hughes. Mr. Hughes? We'll come back. Councilman Johnson? Sorry, Commissioner Johnson. Mr. Hughes, can you hear us?
Aye.
Oh, there we go. Thank you so much. Okay, that motion carries.
All right, thanks so much. Now let's take the two items that were removed from the consent agenda. We'll start with the in-Libyan housing redefined. Any questions or discussions about this item?
Yes.
Mr. Auditor.
So I do have a question on the final maturity not to exceed what amounts to 50 years. And if I could have an explanation of that term. That seems like an out of the ordinary long term.
Sure. Let me also say this on page 813 of your packet. Members are still looking for it.
It is
Stephanie, can you
long,
address that?
and they don't generally go that long, but based on statute, they have up to 60 years. And Kristen, MJ, is Kristen on the, she was gonna call in. Kristen Downs? Kristen Kirby.
Trying to get the bond counsel on the phone.
She's online and she's unmuted.
Thanks, Kristen. Can you hear us? Kristen Kirby?
Yes, I can hear you. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, we are. Thanks. Did you want to comment on this?
Yes, I'm happy to jump in. This is Kristen Kirby at McGuire Woods. We're bond counsel for in-Libyan. As Stephanie stated, so under state statute, under the Housing Authorities law, housing authorities are able to issue bonds with terms of up to 60 years. So this maturity of 50 years is within their ability to do. We frequently see bonds with maturities of 40 to 45 years. This one's a little bit longer. It's based on the 45-year amortization schedule, which begins after the construction phase. So there is a little bit of cushion built into that not to exceed maturity date, just in case of any delays. But that provides the most flexibility for the deal to stay outstanding all the way through the full 45-year amortization.
Just from this is Auditor Boliek, from my perspective, that seems like a long time. What is the general rationale for even going out 40 to 50 years as opposed to, say, a 30-year maturity?
So I think
what are the chances that these places are going to be lived in 50 years, for example?
Sure. So, I mean, you're correct that from a practical standpoint, these deals typically will not stay outstanding that long. There will typically be a refunding at the end of the tax credit compliance period. But because the debt service is calculated based on the long amortization, they do tend to have a long stated maturity date, provide the most flexibility to refinance under the same documents and keep the bonds outstanding, even if there is, a renovation or something down the road, that they can do that. And these longer maturities are not uncommon in the housing bond market. This deal is being privately placed with a sophisticated investor. Investors have the appetite for these longer terms, and we commonly do, 40, 45 years in these. Again, there'll be redemption features and ability to call the bonds or refinance earlier, but it's not uncommon that we have a stated maturity date that goes for the full amortization.
This is the Treasurer Briner. There's a difference between wanting long amortization because it provides financial flexibility and long amortization because it's the only way to make the math work of the project. I assume you're going to tell us it's the former and not the latter?
Correct. Yeah. Typically, the investor's only underwriting till a shorter period. There's, expecting that there'll be a refinancing. But yes, that's correct.
The second question I have is, this is the only tax credit borrower that is a Minnesota limited liability company, not a North Carolina one. Why are they domiciled in Minnesota?
That is where the developer is located. So typically the borrowers are special purpose entities that are set up just to own the project. Often we see them set up as North Carolina entities, but when the developer, the parent company, is from out of state, they often do also set up the special purpose entity in that state. So that's just what they've chosen to do here. But that entity will have to be, qualified to do business in North Carolina, or has been qualified to do business.
I would defer to the Secretary of State here, but I suspect it's pretty easy to set up a North Carolina limited liability company and do business that way.
Well, it certainly is.
Yes.
Unfortunately, the exemption to the requirement to set up do business is very, very broad. And owning property here, renting property here is not that is one of the exceptions that would allow you to be an out-of-state entity as opposed to North Carolina. But we would encourage it.
Right, that's my point.
Yes, right.
Thank you.
And I had a quick question. Looking at 238 units, 141 million, you're looking at 593,000 a unit, which seems to be a good bit higher than some of these other units we're seeing in our package, just by way of comparison. I know it's in Charlotte. Is there just a comment or any information you might have on what's driving that cost up? Which kind of led me to think kind of where Treasurer Briner was going was that the reason the cost is higher per unit? Is that what's driving that amortization out? But what is driving the cost per unit up?
I can't probably speak in detail on the construction pricing. One thing that I don't know that the pricing on this deal is drastically different than on the others. One thing I will note here is that you're seeing the higher bond amount because this deal is utilizing both tax exempt and taxable bonds, whereas most of the other housing deals in the packet for today are only financing the tax exempt piece through the housing authority. So there's a lot more taxable financing that's not part of what you're approving in this overall sources and uses for those, which is why you see sort of that discrepancy in amount versus number of units. But beyond, I can't really speak intelligently on, what the construction contract pricing is on this. And unfortunately, we don't have anybody from the developer on short notice to speak to that.
Thanks, Kristen.
I got another question now. I guess my assumption is then that the taxable bonds, Minnesota is going to benefit from that.
Are you looking at me?
No, I'm sorry, Madam Secretary. I'm not looking at you. I just happen to be pointed that direction just for my ear to listen.
No, all of the bonds are being issued through the housing authority.
Okay.
So.
All right.
Other questions or discussion about the Enlivian item? If not, is there a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve.
First, Briner. Second, Secretary Wooten. Cindy, would you call the roll?
Okay, for Enlivian, Briner, and Wooten. Secretary Marshall. Aye. Thank you. Auditor Boliek.
Aye.
Mr. Brown.
Aye.
Councilman Hoffmann. Aye. Thank you. Mr. Hughes.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Johnson? Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you, Cindy. The next item pulled out of consent is on page A17 of your agenda. It's the Raleigh Housing Authority North Square. These are conduit revenue bonds. Any questions or discussion about this item?
Yes, I have questions. This is Auditor Boliek. So I would direct attention to page A18, which identifies, the schedule for the entire project, and note sources of income include 2, City of Raleigh, a soft loan, and 3, County of Wake, a soft loan. And I've got some questions about what exactly the City of Raleigh and Wake County, there are a lot of different ways to define a soft loan, but I'm curious as to how these two entities define a soft loan. Because if you also notice on page A20 in a similar project, in that instance, there appears to be direct funding coming from the taxpayers in Wake County and the city of Raleigh. Money directly from the general fund as opposed to, that is a grant, as opposed to a soft loan. So I'm curious as to if anybody is on the line that can help me understand what the city of Raleigh, how the city of Raleigh and how the county of Wake define the term soft loan.
Thank you. I don't know that we have anyone
Yeah,
from
Kristen
this
can
project. Okay,
Yeah.
great.
If Kristen's still on.
Kristen Kirby.
It's really, they're loans, but she can explain them better.
Well, I'm assuming they're intentionally using the term soft loan to mean something. Otherwise, it would just say a loan.
Right. Normally it says a loan. Kristen, are you still there?
She's still on, she just has to unmute herself.
Kristen Kirby.
Okay, sorry, it wasn't letting me unmute. Apologies.
All right.
Yes, Kristen Kirby again with McGuire Woods. So the loans on both of the deals that you're seeing, they're the exact same thing. This is just how it got written up in the sources and uses was unfortunately not consistent. So we will be more careful with that going forward. This is often coming from the developers, so it's in developer think how they write it. But the city of Raleigh and the Wake County loans, and you'll see a number of these loans on a good number of that conduit housing deals we bring to you. These are loans that the municipalities are making generally from the proceeds of their taxable, affordable housing general obligation bond issuances that those units undertake. In these deals, those are going to be subordinate loans is how I think would probably be the most accurate way to describe them. So, you know, the first mortgage bond loan is going to have first priority, and then, you know, the gap financing or subordinate loans from the city of Raleigh and Wake County in this instance, you know, have second and third mortgages on the property. And I think possibly the other reason they're characterized as soft loan is typically those loans are repayable from cash flow of the project, so that if the project's not at some period in time generating enough cash flow to make the payments, not making the payment is not a default. That amount just continues to accrue and is due at maturity if not paid before. So I think that's the quote unquote soft characterization, because there wouldn't be, because one, they're subordinate, and two, there wouldn't be a payment default if there's not sufficient cash flow. That amount would just continue to be added on and accrue and be paid by maturity.
That was my general assumption, is that they were the terms were favorable.
Correct.
And what you described is certainly a favorable, that there's no default. But I'm curious, for transparency purposes, does this also mean those could be converted to grants as opposed, because if there's no default and we never get paid back, at some point, is there a forgiveness provision in these loan documents?
I would have to go back and look at those. We don't represent the city and the county on those loans, so I'm not as intimately familiar with the terms, but that's certainly something that we can research and get back to the commission on.
Yeah, just for transparency.
That's like a separate source of financing in the project, not part of what loan. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, sorry about that. I just don't think it's not transparent when it's called a soft loan. It's either a loan or it's not a loan. And a soft loan, again, just raises a lot of transparency questions in my mind to the taxpayers of both Wake County and the city of Raleigh, with exactly what the governing authorities in both of those entities are agreeing to with respect to this particular project.
We also have Jennifer Wimmer, our head of debt, on the line who can speak to this as well. She's remote. MJ, could you please unmute Jennifer? Jennifer, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Auditor, to your question, The city and the county usually use the funds in their, housing development, you know, agency to have these affordable housing. Some units of government issue, as Kristen mentioned prior to that, their own taxable affordable housing bonds. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're bond funds. It could be that the cash that they have on hand for these particular purposes of providing affordable housing within the city or the county, or the, helping the development of certain parts of the county, or the city that need affordable housing. That is where they have put their, effort and their funds. The reason why you don't see the actual loan is because it is not a loan that we would be approving for the county or the city, or you would be approving for the county or the city, because it is being loaned out for this particular purpose. Now, with this, and it is going through the Raleigh Housing Authority, as most of these housing authorities, the developer is taking on this risk and liability to get the tax exempt financing that occurs through this conduit issuer. But for your transparency question, it does go back to, they have identified the funds in some way, whether they were bond funds or cash that they have decided to put towards this project. And they would have the detailed information specifically in the loan document to this developer on what kind of terms and agreements they have.
Yeah, I mean, well, they're getting a good deal. They're getting tax credits. And this project is interesting that because it also covers the gamut of 30, 50, 60, and 80% of AMI. Opposed to a lot of these are at 60%, and that's a pretty big spread.
I will add one more thing to your point about the percentage of AMI. Those rents would be comparable to those particular percentage. So the workforce housing at 80% would actually more than likely have a higher rent for that particular unit in order so that different segments that need affordable housing are those units are available.
Thanks, Jennifer. Any other questions or discussion from commission members? Otherwise, is there a motion to approve the Raleigh housing item?
I move approval.
Secretary Wooten,
Second.
second, Treasurer Briner. Cindy, would you call the roll?
Raleigh Housing Authority, Moore Square, Wooten, Briner. Secretary Marshall? Aye. Thank you. Auditor Boliek?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Thank you. Councilwoman Hoffmann? Aye. Thank you. Mr. Hughes?
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Johnson? Aye. Thank you. And that's everyone. Motion carries.
All right, thanks so much, Cindy. Now we're turning to page A32 of your packet. This is a non-action item that you don't vote on, but Stephanie will give a quick explanation.
Yes, with King, they got a really, really good deal. They went back to their bank and they asked them to drop the interest rate. And so the interest rate has dropped from 5.4% to 3.997% for the remainder of the time. Nothing else within this loan is changing, and it gives them a good savings of about 163, just over 153,000 for the whole loan. So that's, we felt like that was a really good deal.
Thanks, Stephanie. And again, this is the type of item that locals can do now without coming to the LGC first for authority because of the change in policy that was adopted by the LGC.
And for all the units who are listening, apparently you should go ask for a lower interest rate. Sometimes it happens.
Just ask. All right, thanks so much. We'll move on to attachment B, which is debt requests from units that are on the unit assistance. All three of the requests are very similar in the type of debt. So I believe Stephanie's going to describe the three requests at one time, and then we'll turn to Kendra to hear about the financial picture of these units.
Yes, with these on the UAL, they are Bailey, there's two for Red Springs and one for Stoneville. Now, they're all dealing with vehicle purchases. Bailey, we're just going to cure them. They have already purchased this vehicle. So for the $59,000. But Red Springs is going to get a bucket truck. They just felt like it was necessary as opposed to renting and leasing it. It was better to purchase one. So they've got that. And they've got several police vehicles and other vehicles. And then Stoneville is the same. So with that, I'll let Kendra talk about everyone.
Thank you. You have in your packet a write-up on each of these units about why they're on the unit assistance list. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of information that is not in that write-up that I think that you need to know to make your decision. On the town of Bailey, in your packet, it explains that they've been on the UAL since 2020 due to internal control issues. One of those main internal control issues is it being problematic for them to be able to produce audited financial statements since 2020. So in fact, the fiscal year 2020 audited financial statements didn't come into us until July of 2023. But since then, so over the last 29 months, they have been able to get caught up to the point where they have turned in their fiscal year 2025 audited financial statement now 2 months early.
Wow.
So I wanted to make sure that you had that positive information about them, and their audited financial statements are still in the review process, but I did look at them. There are no findings under their stewardship, compliance, and accountability note. They have one material weakness, which is the segregation of duties, which we see in many units of local government that are small. You will note in your write-up, the unit has a plan of action for those internal control things. And then their asset condition ratio is lower than we would like to see. But again, they have talked about raising their water and sewer rates to a level where they should be able to build up some reserves to help address that that issue. So those were things that I wanted you to hear about Bailey.
And we've got somebody from Bailey here.
Mayor.
Mayor.
Oh, okay, fantastic.
Mayor's here.
Ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate y'all's time. As was stated prior to my election in 2023, I made it very clear, I announced very early in 2023, I made it very clear that the audit situation for the town of Bailey was inappropriate. And the council commissioners have decided to make it a priority, and it has been quite a large expense, as you would know, for the town of Bailey. So just that's my brief statement for that. And the name's Owen Strickland, Mayor, Bailey, North Carolina.
Thank you for your leadership. It's impressive progress, and we really appreciate it. I know I speak for all of us in saying that, because oftentimes we get folks here struggling with these kind of challenges and can't seem to figure their way out, but you have. And so congratulations to you and the town of Bailey.
We appreciate the taxpayers, because they are the ones that funded it at $18,000 a pop. That's kind of difficult, but
We appreciate you being here.
thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Secretary Wooten.
Yeah, Kendra, I have a quick question. This is the first time that I've noticed the DEQ imposed sewer moratorium. How widespread is that?
This is the only unit that I've heard of, but that doesn't mean that there aren't others. I'm sure there are others, but so I don't know that I can directly address that question.
Okay. Mayor, you.
Secretary Wooten, I think I can address it. We have been on a sewer moratorium for 22 years. We have recently we have contract pending to come back on the 13th of November. ARPA money, approximately $9 million, will be spent within the town limits. And my push and my goal is to make sure our town is as close to off the sewer moratorium by mid-2027 as we can be. Because as you know, ARPA money has to be totally spent by December 31. There is one other town that has been on it longer than us, and that's Elm City in Wilson County. I don't know exactly how much longer, approximately 1, 2, 3 years, somewhere in that neighborhood. But once you are on it, there is essentially zero growth. And as I don't know whether you have the copy that I have, our financial director pulled our tax rates. And for about 25 years, there was no change. And our commissioners had to raise taxes 12 cents on 100 to the second highest rate in Nash County, which gave me, as a conservative, a great deal of heartburn. But we had to do it because it had not been done. Because there was, honestly, if you're unable to produce services, how do you then justify tax increases? I mean, you don't have your tax base doesn't increase, so you're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place.
Thanks for the response.
Thank you. Hope that helped.
Yeah.
Any questions or discussion about the Town of Bailey item?
Move approval.
What's your population, Mr. Mayor?
About 527-ish.
Ish.
I have a somewhat elderly population, and they tend to leave us, unfortunately.
That's the issue.
Motion by Treasurer Briner, looking for a second.
Second.
Second. Cindy, would you call the roll?
Town of Bailey, Briner and Marshall. Okay, that would be Auditor Boliek.
Aye.
Thank you. Secretary Wooten.
Aye.
Mr. Brown.
Aye.
Thank you. Councilman Hoffmann. Aye. Mr. Hughes.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Johnson. Aye. And that's everyone. Motion carries.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Appreciate y'all's time.
All right, let's move on to the two items that Stephanie described from the town of Red Springs. Kendra, if you could give us a summary of their financial background. And I will tell you that we have the town manager and finance director on the line if there are questions.
So you have the write-up again on the town of Red Springs. They are looking to get some police vehicles as well as their electric bucket truck for their electric fund. They are on the UAL because of fund balance available as a percentage of expenditures lower than our recommended level, although it's not that much lower. The police vehicles would be funded in the debt service. The debt service would be funded in the general fund. So in discussions with the town, not only with their coach team member, but when I was speaking with the manager and the finance officer, we talked about possibly how are they allocating their expenses in between the general fund, water and sewer fund, electric fund. And we came to the conclusion that they need to be allocating some expenses that are currently in the general fund to their water and sewer and their electric fund. So that in combination with the decrease in repair bills expected for police vehicles, we feel like that the debt service that they are looking to take on is affordable by the general fund, and that they have a plan of action to address the issues that they're experiencing in their water and sewer fund that is not related to the debt requests that you have before you.
Thanks, Kendra. Questions or discussion about this item? These items, I should say, there are two. Otherwise, looking for a motion. Commissioner Hoffmann,
Second.
Secretary Wooten. Cindy, would you call the roll?
All right, two matters, two matters for Red Springs, Hoffmann and Wooten. Secretary Marshall. Aye. Auditor Boliek.
Aye.
Mr. Brown.
Aye.
Mr. Hughes.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Johnson. Aye. Thank you. And Treasurer Briner.
Aye.
Thank you. That motion carries.
Thank you, Cindy. The last item, the vehicles for the town of Stoneville. We have the finance officer on the line, and Kendra will describe the financial issues.
Sure. You do have your summary, and I just want to make one correction. In your summary, it writes up that the town of Stoneville was placed on the unit assistance list for the first time based on fiscal year 24. They have actually been on the unit assistance list since 2021 for internal control conditions. What is the first time for them is that they also scored in fiscal year 24 for financial condition. And that financial condition is in their water and sewer fund. But as you can read in your write-up, they have a plan of action to address these items, and they are working diligently to improve the financial condition of their water and sewer as well as their internal controls. Their current finance officer, I love to see this, has implemented the practice of providing monthly budget to actual reports to their board, something that you would think is routine, but sometimes is not. And so they have made that internal control change that hopefully will address some of the issues that have placed them on the UAL.
That's great. Good job, town of Stoneville, in implementing that. Questions or discussion about this item? Hearing none, looking for a motion on the town of Stoneville to police vehicles item. Mr. Hoffman, second. Secretary Marshall.
Okay, for Stoneville, that's Hoffman and Marshall. Auditor Boliek.
Aye.
Thank you. Secretary Wooten. Mr. Brown.
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Hughes.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Johnson. Aye. And Treasurer Briner.
Aye.
Thank you. Stoneville motion carries.
Thank you, Cindy. Attachment C is an item that is for your information only and no vote is needed. This is an annual financial update that we as staff give you on the town of Spencer Mountain. About 12 years ago, the LGC took control of the town of Spencer Mountain's books and assumed full control of the town's finances. And since that time, the town charter was suspended by the General Assembly, and it has been suspended for about 9 years at this point. Right now, there's no financial activity in the town, so although we have a staff member serving as the finance officer, there's been one financial transaction every year, which is the purchase of the finance officer bond that we have been purchasing on one of our staff members. You know that local units are required to purchase a finance officer bond. We are not required to purchase that on our staff, and I recommend that going forward, we stop purchasing that on behalf of the town. I think that's the right decision for stewardship for the town's finances, because I will say we're talking about around $4,000 makes up the corpus of the town's money. What you have in your packet are the unaudited town financial statements. There's not very much to audit with one transaction per year. And again, we're not required to give you this update, but as this is the only town under control of LGC right now, we like to just make sure you know that that it is around, that you still have it, that the charter suspension would sunset this next June unless the General Assembly acts to suspend the charter again.
I didn't realize it was a temporary suspension.
Yes, it is. I should have said that. This charter has been suspended 3 different times, and each time, or I should say, the deadline keeps getting pushed out.
Perpetual.
Yeah, it seems perpetual, and it could go on indefinitely. But as of now, each time it has been for a short period of time with a sunset. Any questions about Spencer Mountain?
Just a question. So what happens, Denise, if the legislature does nothing?
So if the legislature does nothing, that would not be ideal. The town charter would become active again. And again, we would maintain control of the finances until such time as the town will be able to take them over. They don't have any employees or any staff, so it would be hard to be unable to turn the finances over at this point to, one that is there.
Refresh my recollection, what is the population of the area?
Oh, that is a great question, and it is,
Forgotten. Is it in
I would need to
Cabarrus County?
look it up. I actually don't remember the population, but I think it looks like Kendra might be looking it up for me. Thank you, Kendra.
Wish I had taken a typing class in high school.
Oh.
Yes.
My phone's like, yeah, it's in Gaston, that's right.
Zero.
It looks like it was
It says
a population of 37 as of 2010, so I don't know where they are today.
It's just a mill town with the property being
Correct.
maintained by the
Yes,
mill.
that's right.
And the person who was acting as clerk was the employee of the mill that helped
That's right.
just keep it from falling down or whatever
Yes.
that person did.
Yes.
Ought to be a way to end this, man.
Certainly it's, the General Assembly could choose to permanently dissolve the town, but that has not been the choice of legislators so far. All right, thanks. Moving on to a few follow-ups for you on the notice of non-compliance items that you heard about in August. You'll remember that in the August meeting, you deferred a decision on the appeal related to withholding sales tax from the town of Speed and the town of Taylortown. So we're going to give you a few updates on those. In terms of the town of Speed, you'll recall that the staff recommendation on this one was to defer and wait and see what happened because the town of Speed had indicated it intended to pass a resolution of intent to dissolve. And in fact, the town of Speed has passed a resolution of intent to dissolve. So we know that that's not an easy decision for any town to make. It's emotional. It is hard to be the person that says this is the right time with the economic and demographic challenges that we're facing to dissolve a town, but they did vote with an intent to dissolve. It doesn't mean the town necessarily will dissolve. Certainly they could still, if they get off track at any point, there are several milestones to be met between this resolution and actual dissolution, which may be as soon as June 30th. But the staff recommendation at this point would be to grant the appeal because assuming the town stays on track to dissolve, if you withhold the sales tax, it creates an additional logistical hurdle. There's no language in the sales tax withholding statutes right now to let us get the money back early to give it to the town to disperse with the other assets of the town. And so it is less complicated if you choose to grant the appeal. Obviously, it's your choice, members, but looking for questions on this item. Auditor
Let me
Boliek
get
might
this
have a
straight.
question.
Okay, so let me get this straight.
Sure.
We would be voting to give them their sales tax revenue.
Yes.
You know how much that is? Do we have a number?
Laura Rowe from our staff on the line, and Laura may have that number. I know it was in your September packet, but if not, I can pull up your September packet and take a look.
Hi, this is Laura. Can you hear me?
Yes.
We hear you, Laura. Thanks.
Thank you. So if the appeal was denied, the maximum amount of sales tax withholding would be about $6,500. And Speed right now is currently subject to sales tax withholding. And so this withholding for this audit report would be in addition to what is being withheld already.
Right, and I will say, thank you, Laura, for mentioning that, because that is a good clarification that I should make. We are already withholding money, as Laura said, from the town. So again, if the town were to stay on track to dissolve, that's something that either that money could go back in 2 years. I think you would have a question of where to return the money at the time if the town doesn't exist. And an alternative would be if they clearly were on the path to dissolve, possibly staff could work with the legislature to find a way to return the money before 2 years. Because as you all remember, the requirement to get the funds returned is 2 years pass or the town files the audit. If they dissolve, they will not be filing the audit for which funds are already being withheld.
I personally have a problem with that.
Okay.
And I have a problem with granting it, simply because we heard last month that Speed was going to consider this and that they were actually going to pass a resolution to dissolve, not an intent to dissolve, but they were going to, in fact, dissolve. And now we're presented today with this with their intent to do so, and then they're going to get money now pending dissolution. And so I just personally have a problem with that. They either need to decide they're going to be a viable municipality or not. One of the two.
Sure, I can speak to that. I may have caused that confusion. To be clear, under the general statutes that govern town dissolution, the first step is that a town is required to pass a resolution of intent to dissolve.
Yeah, I read that, but I didn't hear a real firm sort of confirmation that their governance structure has decided to in fact dissolve. I just didn't, maybe I missed that.
All we have is their resolution signaling their intent to dissolve, which is the first step in the process. And they were required to take that step before any others.
And the next step in that process
And the next step in that process is the town has, I believe, 90 days to write an impact statement of the impact of a dissolution. So part of that would entail what happens to the assets of the town, what happens to the types of services that the town is providing, such as streetlights and trash service.
Is anybody online from there?
Do we have anyone from, I do not believe we have anyone from the town of Speed online.
Can I ask the LGC to delay this? I would like to talk to the LGC's attorney.
Sure.
Can I do that? I know it's a little bit odd, but I would like to talk to the LGC attorney on this matter, if that's okay.
Sure. I mean, I think if you're looking for satisfaction that they are on.
I've got information that's not.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right. Fair enough. Okay.
So it is a,
We'll then share that with the legal advice with all of us in a memo or something.
Madam Secretary, I will, absolutely, yes. I mean, I could do it today, but I mean, if we don't want to do it today, I would ask that this be deferred to next month.
so here is a motion to defer
it to next
to the
month.
December meeting.
Yes.
Looking for a second.
Second.
Second, Marshall. Cindy, would you call that roll?
Second. Speed late notice appeal defer to December. Auditor Boliek, Secretary Marshall. Secretary Wooten.
Aye.
Mr. Brown.
Aye.
Thank you. Councilman Hoffmann. Aye. Mr. Hughes.
Aye.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Johnson. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Treasurer Briner.
Aye.
All right, so motion carries, speed deferred to December.
All right, members, we'll bring this back to you next month. And Auditor Boliek, we'll do what we can to connect you with the.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Well, if Cindy has the next item.
Okay, sure, yes, so next up is,
As part of this same topic,
yes, the next page is in attachment, what are we on, D? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, Elm City, that, for the lawyers in the room, we might call this a Scrivener's error, copy and paste error. So we apologize for this. All that happened was the incorrect town's box explanation of the reasoning, the staff's factual reasoning behind the recommendation. The wrong town was placed under Elm City's name in the final copy of the resolution that was passed in September. So handy dandy Robert's Rules, Section 35 gives you the opportunity, one of you, to make a motion to amend something that was previously adopted by simply replacing the incorrect text with the text that you see in the box that says paragraph 3. And that is the exact text that you were presented in that the meeting materials. You had a multi-page of all the different units and all the facts that went with each unit. So the wrong town got plugged in. I think that was an accident. We apologize. And so this we just ask someone, if this is your pleasure, someone move to amend this previously adopted resolution by replacing the text in that box.
So that Elm City is described as Elm City.
Correctly.
With the facts that go with Elm City.
Correct reason for Elm City and not a different thing.
Thanks, Cindy.
Any questions?
Any motion or questions or concerns?
So moved.
Thank you. Treasurer Briner?
Second.
Is that Brown?
Second.
Brown.
Mr.
Wait, is it Hughes or Brown? I'm sorry.
I believe that was second, Mr. Hughes.
Mr. Hughes, thank you. All right, Briner and Hughes. Any discussion? Just take it over, I'm sorry. Okay, the amendment to the Elm City, Briner and Hughes. Secretary Marshall.
Aye.
Thank you. Auditor Boliek.
Aye.
Secretary Wooten. Mr. Brown.
Aye.
Thank you. Councilwoman Hoffmann.
Aye.
And Commissioner Johnson. Aye. Thank you. So yes. Okay, the motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cindy. The last item related to the sales tax potential withholding and the notice of noncompliance is the second unit that you agreed to defer to this meeting, which is the town of Taylortown. We have Laura Rowe from our staff on the line who's going to start the explanation. Laura?
Hi, yes, thanks Denise. I can provide a recap on the matter of Taylortown from the September 9th LGC meeting. Taylortown's notice of appeal to the notice of noncompliance for not filing the fiscal year 2024 audit report was provided to the LGC members for consideration at that September 9th meeting. At that meeting, town staff and representatives appeared before the commission to discuss that appeal and so that there was additional confidential information that they wished to provide to staff. They wanted to provide that offline and not at that meeting due to its confidential nature. As a result, the LGC voted to defer consideration of the town appeal to today's November meeting. I understand that LGC staff have had a conversation with representatives of Taylortown about that additional information.
Thank you so much, Laura, and I can speak to where Laura is leaving off. You'll recall at the time the update on Taylortown was given to you by former LGC Secretary Greg Gaskins, who was representing the town as their attorney. Kendra and I met with Mr. Gaskins to discuss the town. He did not provide, he, since that time, has reached out to us to say that he is no longer representing the town of Taylortown and did not send us any information that we can pass along to you to shed any light on the matters that he discussed. So we don't have any more information for you than we had at the time, other than to tell you that the town, I believe, has new outside counsel. I will say that several members of the town staff and council are either present or on the line and are available for any questions that you have. The staff recommendation on this item was to not grant the appeal, and that has not changed. Thank you.
Folks from Taylortown, would you like to say your piece?
Please.
Thank you.
Could I get a bottle of water?
Oh, absolutely.
Good afternoon, Commission. I am Attorney Erin Rozelle, and I am Town Council for Taylortown. I believe Dominique Kim is online as well. He's co-counsel with me. As you have stated, oh, sorry, not loud enough. As you have stated, we are new faces, so it's nice to see everyone and meet you today. We did have outside counsel handling this, and there was a changing of the guard since the last time Taylortown was here. I do have more information for you all, if you would allow me to present that. And please excuse me in advance if it seems a little redundant. I was not here at the last meeting, so I'm not sure exactly what all Mr. Gaskins presented. I was able to get some information from him. Of course, you know, we talked, so he could fill me in as far as what he had done, but I don't know specifically the words that he spoke the last time he was here. But I am aware of your concerns. He did pass that to me, so hopefully I will be able to address those today for you all. I want to start with a little background because I think it's important. Unfortunately, Taylortown was also on the non-compliance list for last year. You all are probably aware of that. And you so graciously granted them their appeal at that time for the 2023 audit. And at that time, they were not behind on any other audits, which obviously met your provisions. And that resolution also provided that good cause was shown. Now, I'm not sure at that time exactly what was presented as far as good cause, but I do want to get into that today. So I'm going back to 2023 because it's relevant to why the 2024 audit is not available. In sum, we cannot do the 2024 audit because we do not have the 2023 audit. And the reason we do not have the 2023 audit is very convoluted, but I will do my best to give an overview without getting too much in the weeds about what has been going on in Taylortown, but in fact, there has been a lot. It started with the changing of hands with the town clerk and the mayor. So we had a government that was pretty much run by those two people, a lot of power and control. So when they left, things obviously fell apart. And when the new council came in, which some of those members are here, they have been working very diligently since the beginning of 2024 to pick up those pieces. So the abrupt and dramatic resignation of the town clerk, it did impact the town because she had so much information and she had a lot of personal relationships on behalf of the town. So when the changing of guards happened, the town was locked out of a lot of items. For example, physical files and records were moved, destroyed, altered, and hid by the former clerk. The access to databases, bank accounts, emails, and other systems where financial information resided. Even payroll at that time, they could not make payroll because they didn't know how to log in to pay payroll. A lot of the information just was not available. They were even locked out of the bank accounts for a certain period of time. That was very difficult to maneuver through. However, the current council did maneuver through those items and was able to gain access in the manner in which they needed in order to proceed with the town matters. At around the same time that the town clerk left, the state auditor's office did show up to Taylortown and wanted to do an investigation. Thankfully, the results of that investigation, now they were given access to Taylortown's bank accounts and they looked for themselves. They looked at all the financials and that investigation was successfully closed out. As far as the steps that have been taken to put Taylortown back together, significant progress has been made. A new accountant has been hired, Calvin Blanton. He is present and he's been taking care of the financials. We have successfully defended lawsuits from the former town clerk as well. The town has a new police chief, which is important. At the time that some of this wrongdoing was done, there were attempts to try to bring some justice to the town clerk, but Taylortown was not able to because of the relationship there. There is a new police chief in place, investigations are being taken place as it relates to what has been done in the wrongdoing as far as the previous town officials. That is the confidential information that Greg Gaskins kind of wanted to share. Obviously, we're just telling the truth at this moment as far as what is going on to try to fix and rectify some of the situations in Taylortown. So we do have a new police chief. There is a new town administrator, Ms. Carolyn, who is to the left of me. They have been working very diligently with the North Carolina League of Municipalities and other legal, accounting, and IT professionals. We did have to hire an IT firm to help unlock some of those accounts and get us back into some of those websites and things that we need to access, even to make payroll. The town has regained access to their accounts, emails, records, and bank accounts as of today. And so we are in better standing. Internal controls have been put in place. The council, in fact, they take vote on things. Everything is very transparent. And it's running like a local government should run. In terms of our 2023 audit, again, we need the 2023 audit to do the 2024 audit. Now, unfortunately, the reason why we do not have a 2023 audit is because the accountant, he resigned. And I do have some information to that effect to show what has happened with us trying to get that audit from him. I apologize, I only made 4 copies, but am I allowed? Can I present the copies that I do have to you all as far as the paper trail relates to what we've done to try to get the 2023 audit? All right, so you all may have to share a bit because I made 4 copies, but have here, one here.
We'll look at that one.
All right, I want to go through exactly what has occurred. So first, let's start. The first thing that you see before you is a letter dated February the 1st, 2024. It is addressed by our Mayor Gaddy to Mr. Anderson, authorizing him to share information with the new officials. Now, what you don't have before you, because it was just sent to me when I was driving up here from Charlotte, is an email from Anderson on February the 13th that introduces himself to Sydney and Carolyn. He says, I'm the auditor for the town of Taylortown, and is attached is what we will need to complete the audit. There were a couple things that he asked for, and he ended it by saying the financials should be complete by next week, and we will then send to the local government commission. I would like to come by the town either Thursday or Friday to finalize everything. Let me know when you're available. I'd be happy to email this to you all. Unfortunately, I don't have the printout. So it is our belief, obviously, that Mr. Anderson was letting Taylortown know at that time that the audit was nearly complete. However, after this, Taylortown never received the audit. What we received is what you will find on the next page, which is him terminating himself. So the next page on June 24, 2024, he is letting Taylortown know that he will no longer be providing accounting services. This obviously came as a shock to Taylortown because they believed that an audit was forthcoming and that it would be provided to you all. So we never got the audit. And he's saying in this letter that there's some money that's owed, which Taylortown had no problem providing any money to Mr. Anderson. Taylortown, in effect, was left hanging after this. The next item you will see is at some point an acknowledgement in August of 2024. Ms. Kendra Boyle, you sent this email letting Taylortown know that pretty much Mr. Anderson is not allowed to fire himself, and it must be a mutual termination. And we appreciate that information because we didn't know that at the time. And so we at that point knew that, okay, he cannot fire himself, so what are we going to do about this? Well, we sent a demand letter, my firm, trying to get the audit. can you please send us the audit, Mr. Anderson? And if not, then we're going to have to take legal action and or file a complaint with the Board of Accounting. His attorney responded by saying they are not going to do so. And in fact, said that there really is no real contract in place for a suit to be brought under breach of contract. That is where we left off. Since the 60-day grace period you all gave us, we did go ahead and file a complaint with the Board of Accountants to see if possibly maybe that would help us get the audit to see if he is in fact in any violations. We believe he is. And nobody really wants to do this. I just want to say that. That is not what we wanted to do. I am not sure if Mr. Gaskins had any conversations with him since the last time he was here. At one point, he did advise us that that would be something he would pursue as well, trying to get the audit. So you got two sets of attorneys trying to get this audit. And so we do not have the 2023 audit. And again, that is why we do not have the 2024 audit. It would take a great amount of time and effort and be very costly to get an accountant to start brand new in 2024. And a lot of professionals just don't want to do that based on accounting principles. The 2023 audit is necessary. So we are stuck, and we've been stuck since last year. And this is why you don't have a 2023 audit or 2024 audit. We don't know of anything else we could have done, and I welcome any questions in order to solve this issue. Our hands are tied, and we would ask the commission for any help that they may have in helping us get our audit. Now, we do know that there is an approved list that you all offer. Mr. Anderson was on that list, and if there is some type of regulatory actions or anything that you all can do, since he is on your list, to help us get our audit, we would gladly accept that help at this point. And we're also obviously asking for grace and some compassion and understanding with what we're going through. We know that we are in violation and it is a non-compliance issue, but I am hoping that you all can see that there is good cause here, and that is that our hands are in fact tied with being able to get what we need from a professional that we paid to have this audit done.
Thank you. That's a lot of good and helpful detail. I guess one question for me. The initial demand letter sent November 2024 was not responded to.
They did respond. It's the next note. So we sent the demand letter in November 2024 from our firm, which is the firm for Taylortown.
Okay.
And then the December 6th, that's addressed to Brian Parker, which is one of my colleagues. This is their response.
So I guess my question is, since their December response, we were told 60 days ago that there would be new information that would come to light in those 60 days. But it seems like the last information here is from December of last year. I'm trying to understand what has changed in 2025.
So nothing has changed because we still cannot get our audit. The only thing that's changed since the last time the previous attorney was here up until today is that we have filed a complaint with the Board of Accounting of Examiners with what occurred with Mr. Anderson being paid to do the audit and not giving it to us, and us having substantial information to know that it was almost complete. We've even asked for a draft of the audit, if not even the complete audit, and have not gotten that either. And I forgot to add, because in case you're wondering, well, can you just take the books and get someone else to do it based off the bookkeeping? We don't even have the books because the person who was doing the bookkeeping did not turn over that to us as well, and that was asked for. So we don't even have the information to do the audit if we were to go try to hire another accounting. That was important. So I'm glad you asked that question because it made me think about that part of it as well. What we have are pieces of financial information that have been pieced together through Ms. Carolyn, and I've seen it for myself because I've been to Taylortown and I've seen boxes everywhere after the clerk left, them trying to piece information back together. They have been trying to piece information back together for over a year now because things were dumped in trash cans and boxes and things were destroyed. So having someone who had the books, having that information is very vital, or at least the accountant who also had access to the books because he was doing the work. So the position Taylortown is in, we are dependent on those who have that information because we no longer have the information. And I would be very concerned if we tried, even though they've done a pretty decent job piecing things together, but we can't say for sure they've pieced it all together in the right way with the physical files that they have is what I'm referring to. Is that correct, Carol?
I think that is a fair assessment of where we are. But I think that in terms, I don't want the commissioners to think that we did only that. The investigation by Mr. Nick Angel from the State Auditor's Office brought issues. We were coming in the door. I was coming in the door in February. In April, Mr. Angel approached for the entrance conference. And citizens have been complaining about the fact that the town had a no cash policy and that there were violations of the no cash policy. So as you move forward from the no cash policy, you start to see, yes, the former clerk, who was never legally, by way of the town council, appointed to serve as the town's finance officer, was in complete control as town clerk, water clerk, and finance officer under a bond that was falsified. She had a history of larceny, embezzlement in her background. The former police chief, they all became very close, a very close-knit group of people in the running of the town government. And he signed off on her criminal history, saying that it did not exist, and had a second officer sign for him. So as these doors began to open, more and more information begins to appear. You start to see where cash is missing. You start to see where bank accounts, why you're being shut out of bank accounts. A USDA grant the town had received for $2.64 million and a bond. We still don't have access to the bank account, the SAM system that this money would have come through. We have only the last 4 digits of the bank account. Wells Fargo has gone through every name possible that we could give. The engineering firm that applied for the grant is able to say, we set up the account. Well, not the former mayor, not the former clerk, none are willing, or the engineering firm, no one's willing to say whose name is on this bank account so that we can get access to this account pertaining to our $963,000 bond. PNC Bank, like we had to go to corporate Truist in order to get help to just put the new names of the incoming council members on the bank account so that we could access information. So I think that one of the things that former Secretary Greg Gaskins was referring to was some of the underlying, the information in terms of what legally has to proceed now as it relates to individuals to be able to access this information. And unfortunately, there is criminal culpability here. So in order for us to get the audit, and then we are hearing that our audit, our FY23 audit, is circulating out there among this network of people. It's hard to believe that someone would do that, whether it's the accountant, the CPA. If you have it, who did you give it to? How did they get it? Is there any of that true? Well, that investigation is proceeding as we sit here today to find out where is our audit, and is there anybody that can help us get the FY23 audit, which may explain some of the other issues that we're facing here.
And who is leading that investigation?
Right now, it is our police chief. We have reached out to Attorney General Jeff Jackson for his assistance. We've had conversations with him also.
And have you engaged with the State Bureau of Investigation about the potential matters of fraud?
The SBI came in, when I first got there, SBI agent Marie Smith came in and asked for us to sign all of the documents that we had. Mayor Gaddy signed everything for them to be able to access what we say is all of our known bank accounts. So we're hoping that with the concerted effort that's taking place by everybody, we could get our audit done. 24 and 25 will not be difficult for us. The work that's gone into those issues, the segregation of duties, making sure that the town of Taylortown is no longer ever put in the position of only one or two people totally being in control of their finances. The work that I spoke to you the last time about how many classes that the town council members have attended when they were not allowed to do this under the former administration. Most of these classes have been, and assistance that we have received, we must say to you, the North Carolina League of Municipalities has been incredible to us. They have provided not only the classes, but when it came time to fill out the ARP report, they were hands-on. Richard Marvin taking us through exactly what we needed to do. So the help, the cloistered Taylortown doesn't exist anymore. We're now in the League's AIM program, a mentoring program that is designed to help us continue to move forward with our accountability. Taylortown is not the first town that I've had to go through this difficult experience with. Where you come in is unfortunate, but this is the first one I've seen with the records all in the trash bags and so forth, and you're just we're spending 14, 16 hours a day at sorting. And this it's not over. It's been a 2-year process at which we've been doing this and reaching out to find help wherever we could find help. And as I say, the League's been great. Richard Marvin had managed Myrtle Beach as a manager. I had managed the small, predominantly Black town of Atlantic Beach. And he can commiserate with me because he knows what the challenges were there. Taylortown's not in the difficulty financially, but we had to bring audits current. We had to set up, financial accounting, accounts payable, accounts receivable. We had to pass a COPS grant audit. These were the things that we had to do to right-size that government. Taylortown really needs your help right now. If there's anything at all that you can do to help us get that audit, that FY23 audit, we will be able to show you how much progress we've made.
So I have a historical question for staff because the idea of withholding sales tax is still relatively new. But the requirement to have audits done has been around for a very long time. So how does this situation that Taylortown finds itself in, how unique is it, or has there been a history when similar town or municipality had a similar situation where they just didn't have the information, didn't have the documentation because someone either destroyed it, or historically has that happened, and what has the commission, what have the commission done in similar situations, barring this piece about sales tax, because that's still relatively new?
Can you speak to that, Kendra?
When this situation comes up, sometimes it's where the auditor has to modify their opinion on certain pieces of the financial statements, and then we can get the audit, get an audit report with the modification, and then hopefully in the next year, then they can have a comfort with their beginning numbers and then move forward. In this case, I know that the auditor had done substantial work. I don't know if he actually got it to a point where he could produce and issue an opinion on the audited financial statements. Could you all speak to why he wanted to terminate?
We can speak to that. I'm going to speak to the second part of your question in terms of how far along he had gotten. If you look at the 2 emails that he sent, one to the former bookkeeper, Jody Singh, he outlines exactly what he needs in order to finish the audit. And what he needs to finish the audit, when we talk to other accounting professionals, they tell us that's not enough. He needed the list of the newly elected officials. He needed I think one of them was the related party letters he had given to the clerk for her to give to the council members. He wanted those. There was one question about the USDA grant that Jody Singh answered for him. Greg, when he came down to Taylortown, actually saw the information where there was a second auditor that was working with Mr. Anderson. Her name was Rebecca Myers. Between the two of them, we've paid over $25,000 for the audit, but she had a draft audit. So when you look at the two emails and what he lists as the 4 things that he needs, it is not what you would expect for a person to not hand in an audit. Even if it's not a perfect audit, but at least these are 4 things that are very simple, 4 or 5 things that were very simple. And he says in his own words that he was at the end of the audit process and that he would be there to do the draft audit. Now, when you say what would have made him not do that, all that we can speak to is what he said. And he said that he did not want to be involved in the transition process. What we're finding is that there are people at different levels of government, contracted service providers, banks, that all got to intertwine in the Taylortown financial milieu.
We'll just address the reference to Rebecca Meyer. My understanding, based on the audit, the contract that was sent in to us, was that she was serving as the skills, knowledge, and expertise person for the town to be able to review the audited financial statements and make sure that they were in compliance with generally accepted accounting principles, because the town did not have anyone on staff who could fulfill that duty. She was not part of the audit team in that respect. She was working for the town.
And we do have an accountant that's employed by Taylortown now that's doing the bookkeeping. I just want to repeat, because the question you asked, so the email that I unfortunately could not print out for you all because I got it in transit here when I was driving here, it says from Mr. Anderson, the financials, this was February the 13th, 2024. The financials should be complete by next week, and we will then send to the local government commission. I would like to come by the town either Thursday or Friday to finalize everything. Let me know when you're available. And that was February 13th of 2024. Then we get the termination on June 24th, 2024. The reasoning, to answer your question, Ms. Boyle, it says this decision, well, it says we write to inform you that as of June 24th, Anderson, Smith, and White PLLC will no longer be providing accounting services to the town of Taylortown. This decision, made after careful consideration, arises due to ongoing challenges, including but not limited to the timely payment for services provided, which unfortunately compel us to terminate our professional engagement. We acknowledge an outstanding balance of $4,000 for services already delivered. If it would have been about the money, and if it still is about the money, Taylortown will pay whatever it takes. And that was communicated, and it still has not led to any resolution. So his reasoning was the money, to answer your question. But I submit to the commission that Taylortown, even assuming if they have been late on some payments, they would have done anything to get this audit, which is paying whatever Mr. Anderson wanted. That is not, we just haven't got cooperation from him at all. And that's just where we are. And
Here, the approved payments from the LGC each time, there were checks written to Mr. Anderson. Approval from the LGC staff, September 13th, 2023 for the FY23 audit. January 2nd, LGC staff approved payment for $5,000 both times. So he was paid those $10,000. Those checks we verified have cleared the town. Okay. Approved by LGC staff Tuesday, March 12th, 2024, $4,000. So $14,000 of the $18,000 contract was approved and paid. This is the only one that LGC staff, we don't have a stamp of approval on, and was not paid.
okay. So she printed out the records. I wasn't, Ms. Carolyn came prepared about the records of the payments to Mr. Anderson. Again, a matter that could have been cleared up, but that is not what we got back when we reached out to him. It was a firm, no, you're not getting this audit. If it would have been, hey, pay me the $4,000 or whatever is owed, we give it to you, we would have gladly done that. There just has not been and a great communication, or any communication, should I say, other than the response to the demand letter that we sent from his attorney, pretty much putting their foot down, saying that they were not going to provide the audit.
Was this the entire charge for the audit? About 14,000 plus the
No,
additional?
the 18,000 approved payments of
14 was paid,
14.
and then he's saying that you had.
Yes.
Hello, can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can, Dominique.
Yes, my name is Attorney Dominique Cam, and just trying to make sure everyone can hear me. Is that a yes?
Mr. Kim.
Yeah, so briefly, there was a question about where we were with the investigation. And so myself personally, I went over a couple of things with the new police chief. A lot of the things we were referring out to the NCSBI, the North Carolina Department of Insurance, and the Attorney General's office, just because they have more resources. We did find a substantial amount of money that we do believe constitutes financial crimes. There was a waiting period for us to get a new chief of police that would go forward with that. As Carolyn illustrated earlier, the former police chief had a very close relationship with former clerk. So it took some time to actually get a new officer in there and actually prepare that. And that is well beyond what I think most small towns have in resources in terms of investigating and presenting that. So we weren't able to get an answer back from those agencies, but that's something that's in flux about what's going to happen with that next. The next thing I want to emphasize was that in February of 2024, we also had, the last conversation between the auditor and the town. I believe that's the time in which the files were actually removed. Records that happened at that February corridor as well. So it's just not separate things. I do believe that she resigned formally in January 31st of 2024. And then one of those nights in February, she went back into the office, and that's when the files were removed, which kind of coincides when the auditor was supposed to come in and meet it. So there's a lot that's going on here. I just wanted to connect those dots in addition to what my counsel has said, Aaron and Mrs. Cole. So I just wanted to add those two things, that there was a close correlation between those files being removed, when the end of the audit was, and they've covered pretty much everything else.
Makes a difference.
Thank you, Dominique.
Yes, I have a couple of questions. And I did some research in our office, of the Office of State Auditor, because the work with Taylortown that has been referenced here today was done prior to my administration. The indication was that the state auditor had completed an investigation of the town with a, quote, good report for the town. I just want to be clear, our records show that no report was issued, that there was a conversation. Ms. Cole, Mayor Gaddy, and Mayor Pro Tem Moody were present for an exit conference where there were 4 scoped areas of interest that dealt with water rates and with the cash. Ms. Cole, you mentioned that, the cash policy. I couldn't find in our records any information of a look at the full finances of the town in our files, and pretty detailed files that we have in our auditing software. So I wanted to address that. If you have documentation that is different from what I'm explaining, I'd love to be able to maybe get a hold of that.
We, and Dominique, you probably may want to respond to this. We had a site visit from Mr. Angel and Mr. Darren DeVos. He met with Mayor Gaddy, Mayor Pro Tem Moody, and me and Calvin Blanton, our finance manager, to go over the issues. They worked really, as a matter of fact, at the very beginning, they said to us, we're going to give you time as we work through this, because they knew that we were going through the boxes. They said, you're looking for the same information that we're looking for. At the end of all of this, in November, that was the in-person site visit. And then in December, the virtual call that you mentioned with Mayor Gaddy, Mayor Pro Tem Moody. When we followed up, because one of the things that Greg was saying, why didn't they issue a written report? I followed that up with Mr. Angel to ask him, was there a written report? He referred me back. He said, no, there was no written report. He referred me back to the notes of that meeting, and there's an email that we have before we came to the September meeting of the LGC where we have that. But my final report to them details what we found, and that we also said at that time, what we're facing here is beyond the resources, the expertise of the town of Taylortown, and that we're going to need additional assistance to follow up on the things outside of the scope of his investigation.
Yeah, and I guess, Ms. Cole, that led to my other question. I do have your letter, and wanted to find out Mr. Blanton's responsibilities and relationship with the town, because you indicated that the town had contracted with Mr. Blanton, who is an accountant, who is a former CPA, no longer is a CPA, but he does this type of work. And there was an indication that he was working, and you mentioned him just a minute ago. Is he still working with the town?
Yes, he is. Mr. Blanton is working as the town's finance manager, contract service. He helped us with our overall budgeting, planning, and overseeing our accounts payable, and working with the lady that we have as a bookkeeper, who is also an accountant in terms of our accounts receivable. Mr. Blanton is here if you would like to ask him any questions.
And then you also indicated that by September 10th of 2024, that the council will now be able to receive detailed financial reports to track its monthly income and expenses in relation to budget. Has that been ongoing?
Yes, I think we do a very good job with the accounts receivable at this point. I think we do an excellent job of, in terms of from the water billing to the commercial leases, and finally knowing exactly where the money's coming from. Getting it translated into, we had to come off of Southern Software System because it was a bit much in terms of trying to merge it with the Neptune meter reading system that's there. We also found ourselves, when we say to you that the vandalism that was taking place, whether it was on our computers or whether it was in the office, this is ongoing even now. So we haven't had as much of it in the last few, I would say the last few weeks since our new police chief is on board. But this is something that we've been tackling. So sometimes when you thought you had something fixed, you had to turn around and go back in and do it all over again. So, but at this point, I would say from where we were, what we're able to account for, and what we're coming to understand. And I will also add, aside from the fact that Mr. Blanton is our finance manager, we had been asking to be put in the league's AIM program for the mentoring, where we could get the help that we needed to understand more about North Carolina. I'm native North Carolinian. I've served on the North Carolina Human Relations Commission as Governor Martin and Governor Hunt's appointee. But there are things about North Carolina law that we needed assistance with. And Richard Marvin, in terms of us being in that AIM program, it's been really beneficial to us.
Yeah, you mentioned him in your letter. I guess I'm just a little bit confused because you did say that, and you confirmed that as of September of last year, so this is more than a year ago, that the council has been on track. Can you confirm they've been on track with monthly income and expenses? You mentioned receivables, but the expenses you're on track with?
I think so. I think we only use, this is an unfortunate part of how we've had to manage, because there was so much confusion about is this our bank account? Is this not our bank account? We made a decision to take the general operating account and only work from one account until we reached a point where we could begin to move the funds that are appropriate to the water and sewer fund, which is our last step in this process, we believe, as we're coming out of what I call crisis management. But yes, we have limited, the town's not in financial trouble. We have a I say the belt is as tight as we can get it in terms of we did what we have to do, And we found that some of the expenses that we have incurred outside of the normal expenses have been mostly to do with the water and sewer, things that were allegedly paid for under the USDA grant and with the bond funds. We found that we didn't actually have, those things weren't actually paid for with that money. So there were things that we had to spend to replace or have extreme expenses and problems for the citizens.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I guess my biggest, from a 50,000 foot view, these were issues that you indicated, at least to the state auditor's office in September of 2024, were issues including detailed analysis of the destruction of public property in that letter. But yet here we are in November of 2025, and there doesn't seem to be any substantial progress or any evidence of productive work to capture that, because everything today, which one thing I've learned, I'll tell you, and you know this too better than anybody on the board. This is all money moves electronically these days, so it's not a question of being able to find the money. If you've got the bank accounts, you can trace the money, and you can put a financial statement together for a financial statement audit using bank records if you need to. And I just don't see any, in just full transparency at this point, I just don't see any productive movement in that direction. I don't see anything except that basically a restatement of what was stated to the state auditor's office back in the fall and winter of 2024.
Let me say that, let me agree to disagree, because there couldn't have been more hours in the day that we've spent. We've hired an IT person. And when we say to you that the cyber attacks, when you say that it's easy enough to track the money or track everything based on what's happening online, we were challenged with all of that. Today, you can go into your system and you can find this particular account. You can't go into your insurance account for your employees tomorrow or for several weeks. You've had to pay an IT person $34,000, $50,000 just to be able to be able to answer what the state requires of us in terms of benefits. And when you say that, no substantial progress, I'd like to say that it is substantial for us. The number of hours in the day that we have, not just the cyber attacks are going on simultaneously to the physical damage that's happening in the town. So putting these records together online and with other people involved to help do this, a tremendous amount of work has been put into rebuilding and getting us to this point. I wish it had taken only a year. Because when I took the job, I thought, oh, we'll sort through this and we'll be finished and we'll move, and this is the way it will go. But we didn't anticipate that 2 years out, we would be struggling with the same people, the same issues, but in terms of being able to provide the town with the financial information that it needs. We get that 2023 audit, and I think we will be able to show you that progress, how easy it will be for a new auditor to come in here and follow the paper trail, the IT trail that's necessary to see exactly what Taylortown has done. 24 and 25 with this 23 will look better than anybody's ever imagined it could.
Yeah, Ms. Cole, I understand it can be difficult. All I'm saying is when I look at attachment A in our materials, looking for reasons to give Taylortown an extension, you've provided some testimony here, and I very much appreciate that. But what I was getting to is sort of some concrete information from the town in the form of a report to the staff at the LGC on exactly what the progress is being made, so that we have some metric in order to measure the movement forward, and it's all in hopes of and in preparation of keeping Taylortown from getting in an even worse financial position moving forward. I think that's what I'm looking for is.
I understand. So I think if I hear you correctly, Mr. Boliek, you're saying close this door over here with trying to get the 2023 audit. And what about this option over here with just starting over with the financials that can be pulled from electronic means? Is that what you're pretty much?
Well, no, I mean, I think generally accepted accounting principle is going to require successive audits. That's clear. I'm just looking for some substantive data with respect to what Ms. Cole has testified to and what you brought us here. I mean, all this is fine. It just seems like sort of last minute we're coming in and telling the LGC about it as opposed to presenting this information in an organized format to the LGC staff so that the staff can measure it and give the members of the board a progress report so that we have some confidence so that you don't get, it's really, we just don't want to see the town get into any further difficulty. That's what the ultimate goal is. Want Taylortown to be successful.
Let me say that I thought that when we did the first appeal, that we had provided that information about what we had been working on and what we had accomplished last year when we were granted the waiver. And I thought that we had accomplished the same thing when we explained in our documentation to the staff what was taking place in Taylortown when we prepared the documentation for this current waiver. Now, one of the things that, and I know this is challenging for the town council members and staff, and it was challenging for Attorney Gaskins as well, and that is how much of they wanted very little to be said as it related to staff. We don't have a good working relationship with the LGC staff. I'll just have to be honest with you about that. When we were introduced to the LGC staff, this is how we were introduced. Mayor Gaddy, the former police chief, brings him the phone and said, here's Tiffany Anderson on the phone to speak to you about the fact that the town clerk is no longer working there. And even though we said there's embezzlement issues, there's larceny issues, there's a history of this falsified document here, we were told, rehire her. We did not meet Ms. Anderson in person until we were in an open council meeting, and in that open council meeting, there was a woman sitting in the back of the room with a group of people who were more aligned with the previous administration. And as Mayor Gaddy began to tell what took place, she rose from the room, came forward and said, see, I wasn't going to say anything until you called my name. Now that you've called my name, let me tell you, all of you are operating illegally. You don't have a finance officer, proceeded with some other things, and ended by saying, and she's not qualified to be a town manager or town administrator is what she said. When we tried to explain these things, Miss Boyle we met, when she came to a meeting, we had no idea that that meeting was going to take place. She was with the former mayor, and Mayor Gaddy wasn't there. I was in a meeting in Rocky Mount, and we're like, what is going on? Subsequent meetings, as you said, I don't like your tone, stood up, prepared to leave. Attorney Cam says, look, let's all sit down and try to work it out. On a phone call with Debbie Damasco, we tried to say, let's do a restart. Let's see how we can figure out how to work together to achieve the goals. And I thought at that moment that it was going to go better. But we don't have that. And I think Attorney Gaskins, based on what he shared with us, and he did some fine work for us. We have no issues with the Gaskins law firm. But as he was saying, there are things that we just don't want to talk about. But without a whole story, and you wonder why we lean so heavily on the league, what we did learn or heard was that we were described as uncooperative. We couldn't cooperate any more than if we stayed all night 24/7 at the town hall. We have tried our best. We have anything that they would have asked us to do, we would have done. And that understanding on the other side is that we always couldn't get you to budget the actual, as Ms. Boyle said to us once, we like the other ones, we like them because they got things to us on time. And we said they may have gotten things to you on time, but it was not accurate. We may be a little bit late, but when you get it, it's going to be accurate. And so that is the essence of why you don't have any more than those 2 waiver documents that you got from us at the town of Taylortown. But in terms of our progress is real.
I think we've exhausted what we can accomplish today on this matter. There are a lot of serious allegations you've made against a lot of people involved in this, including my own staff, which I don't appreciate. They're here to help. They go out of their way to help.
We understand.
I'm quite surprised at the tone. That said, I think we should call the question and make a decision on whether to grant this appeal or not. We are 5 months into the new fiscal year, so we've de facto granted you a 5-month extension already. So I would make the motion to deny the appeal, and I would love a second and a vote.
Motion by Treasurer Briner. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Auditor Boliek. Cindy, will you call the roll on the motion to deny the appeal?
Madam Chair, I'm still an abstention on votes around.
Secretary Wooten. So don't forget. So for the Taylortown resolution, there's been a motion to deny the appeal. Briner and Boliek. Secretary Wooten will abstain. Secretary Marshall.
I'm going to vote aye, sadly. I wish the town well, but there are things that we can't fix here.
Takes me to Mr. Brown.
Aye.
Thank you. Councilman Hoffmann.
Aye.
Mr. Hughes.
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson. Aye. All right, so that's 7 yes.
Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
All right. Turning to attachment E, the designation of distressed units under the state's viable utilities reserve legislation. We have Nick D'Amato and Shadi Escop on the line from DEQ. Also, hold on, along with Kristen Downs and Susan Wallace, also from DEQ. DEQ staff, thank you for your perseverance waiting for this item on the agenda. I believe Cindy's going to take from here.
Okay, yes, I'll kick it off. Okay, so attachment E. Oh, the gavel's being handed over, I think. Okay, Secretary Canada has a engagement. Viable utility reserves. Most of the members on the commission now have not had a lot of experience with these matters from viable utility reserve. So today, it's nothing to do with the grants, the funds, the loans. Today is just identifying a couple of communities as distressed units. So hopefully the cover page, two-sided, was a good overview for you of what this is all about. 2020 General Assembly passes the law with a goal of, let's see how we can identify units with water and or sewer systems that, just in layman's terms, maybe aren't healthy enough for future sustainability. It could be infrastructure, it could be finances, it could be all of the above. This is our attempt at making a process to identify those systems and see what assistance and can be had. So there's this long sentence to find the distressed unit, but basically, I'd say, does the system have a good future outlook? Are they able to generate enough funds that is needed for operations, maintenance, repair, and future reinvestment so that their systems will be sustainable? So the first part, what we're dealing with today is the identification of distressed units. So the legislation asked SWIA, State Water Infrastructure Authority, which is housed under DEQ, and this commission, LGC, to establish what we call the assessment criteria, and then secondly, identification criteria. So a lot of many hours were spent by DEQ staff primarily and LGC staff to come up with the assessment criteria. So at the bottom of page 1, I tried to outline, we've got a couple categories, and I believe it's about 17 or so data points that get assigned a score. And so the statute itself required that at least these items be looked at: size of the population, do they have any transfers of funds in or out of the utility fund? What's the status of do they have a repair or maintenance program? And then DEQ and LGC staff developed the infrastructure and organizational and financial points to look at. As you can see, like what are the rates, affordability, and financial, what's the status of the system, depreciation, remaining life, are we seeing operating surplus or deficit, and so forth. And mostly they're looking at trends too. They're not going to just look at a 1 year. So I pulled up the last iteration from actually March of this year, where some tweaks were made to the assessment criteria. And they do have, in many of them, there's going to be benchmarks on population, on rates, to just see where they fall compared to the rest of the state units. So anyway, the identification criteria, I back up. The assessment has been redone every year, and it's done after July. It used to be April, but now we last year staff said, it makes more sense to wait till July, get these audits in, since we have the topic we just finished, the late audit. They're really late after July 1. So staff are looking at the audits that have come in, and they just recalculate every year and do the scoring again. So on page 2, there's 4 categories, 4 ways you could be identified as distressed. The scoring that I just talked about, that's category 3, D3. You've scored a 9 or higher. I believe the maximum amount of points available is 25, and it's like golf. You want to be low. So if you score 9 or higher for first year you score 9 or higher, you get a letter. Not a warning letter. It's just, hey, attention, you've scored this, and so let's see how you do next year. So 2 years in a row, that will trigger the availability for these 2 boards, SWIA and LGC, to decide, yes, we think you're distressed. So today, just one of those is, which town is that? Let's get it right. Woodland. The town of Woodland has scored a 10 for 2 years in a row. And the SWIA already voted on this in their September meeting, and now ball's in our court. And then the other ways you can be identified as distressed is D1. They sort of thought, well, it's sort of a no-brainer. If the LGC has taken over your finances, you're probably distressed. D2 are the other 3 units that are on the resolution for today. Your unit has not submitted an audit for 2 years in a row. And this is discretionary. In fact, none of this is mandatory. You could score 10 and for some reason, there's some reason that you're not going to necessarily be voted on as distressed. But there were 5 units this time that are missing 2 years audits that have water or sewer or both systems. And the LGC staff has carefully reviewed those and determined that we would like to propose 3 be labeled as distressed. And that's the other 3 on our resolution, Allander, Candor, and Columbus. Again, I think these kind of the notice letters, when you've got 1 year pending, those letters always go out from the DEQ staff. So this isn't a surprise to anyone. And then the last thing to say is that once you are distressed, the legislation says you have to accomplish these tasks. You need to conduct an asset assessment and rate study for your utilities. Your folks need to participate in training and education program, and that was set up by DEQ staff. And then you also need to produce a short-term and long-term action plans to deal with your system. I put a note kind of at the end that there is such a thing as the Viable Utility Reserve, the funds that the General Assembly appropriated. And they can be used for various things that listed there, projects to help regionalize services, rehabbing somebody's systems, decentralizing if it was warranted, and then it could fund studies. And so sometimes the distressed units down the road may apply and get grant funds for those things they have to do, the rate study, the AIA, asset inventory and assessment. And then there all have been ongoing studies in a couple different areas for merger possibilities, regionalization. But today you're not considering any grants, just the identification, designation of units. So I hope all that made sense. And if you had questions that are beyond my level of expertise, we do have some DEQ staff on the line for that purpose.
Questions for everybody?
I lived through the process.
Yeah, Secretary Marshall and Councilman Hoffmann are veterans at this. But yes, it's complicated, but I tried to carve out.
But it's really well thought out in the fact that the resources can be used for the rate studies and those kinds of things, which these same towns can't afford otherwise. And the fact that regionalization can become a solution, which is sometimes the pretty obvious solution that people are unwilling to see, but with this help can see it.
I didn't share it with you, but if you pull up the information that they get at the SWIA meetings, the DEQ staff is awesome. They have charts, they have all this laid out, the numbers, they break it down and show you the trends, and they group across the state how many fit in this category, and it's very well thought out on their end, and they do a really good job of also prioritizing the need as best you can. With obviously there's limited resources, and also the state put in a lot of ARPA funds went into the viable utility reserve as well. So, but for today we don't need to talk about funds. You're just voting on designations.
Is there a final time for the ARPA funds to be used in this situation?
Yeah, I mean, no matter what, ARPA funds had to have already been, what's that magic word?
Encumbered?
Thank you, encumbered by last December 31st. So they already need to be encumbered, and then you have until December 31st, 26, unless Congress does to extend that, but that's the date to spend everything. Deadline.
Comments, questions?
I just hope it'll be refunded some way, shape, or form going on in the future, because this isn't going to, there's a lot of towns out there that are no capacity. It's not their fault. End of life of their equipment, bought for capacity, installed for capacity that they don't have now, like plants or prisons, what have you. And they just have a difficult time keeping the water and sewer systems up. But water and sewer systems are the essence of community, which people don't really think about, but it's got to work for them.
Can't provide that, you're in trouble.
You are correct.
You're no longer a town, really.
I move approval, Mr. Chairman.
Motion to approve, Secretary Wooten.
Second here, okay.
Call the roll, please.
Okay, yeah, there's no discussion. We've got Wooten and Hoffmann for identifying 4 units as set forth in the resolution to be distressed. So Secretary Marshall? Aye. Auditor Briner? I mean, I just. Auditor Boliek?
Aye.
You guys want to just use swear?
The gray suit thing.
Just checking to make sure you're paying attention. Mr. Brown?
Aye.
And Mr. Hughes?
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson? Aye. And Treasurer Briner?
Aye.
I don't know if that was a demotion or a promotion. That motion carries.
All right, thank you. I know Denise was going to give an update on Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools. I know since our last meeting, the State Board of Education has approved the retention of an auditor for that audit. It escapes me at the moment. The audit is underway.
Oh, that it starts with M, that's not.
We just want to make sure everyone had that update. Our next meeting is December 2nd, and if there's no other business from any commission members, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.